Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Marketing the Invisible. I'm Tom Poland, joined today by Robert Glazer. Robert, g'day from down under. Very warm welcome, sir. Where are you hanging out?
I'm outside of Boston, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Boston, Massachusetts. So, USA, sort of eastish, East Coast, or are you central? I'm not sure.
East. We're not that far from New York. A few hours north of New York.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here, folks. Robert is quite a high-level achiever. Quite extraordinary what you've done already, Robert. And still a long way to go, I hope, for you. He's the founder and chairman of the board of Acceleration Partners. It's a global partner marketing agency. He's also the author of 5 books, not just the author of 5 books, but #1 Wall Street Journal bestseller, USA Today international best-selling thought of some other books as well. He's also the host of the Elevate podcast, and he's got quite a unique take on building businesses through building capacity. And that's the fascinating title of this interview, is how to build your capacity in 4 key areas. Robert, we're going to kick off. Our 7-minute starts now, sir. Who's going to get the most of this out of this interview? That's question #1.
Yeah, I think people who want to expand their leadership, expand their capacity, and which I always say is sort of the delta between where you are today and the potential that you think you can be as an individual or a leader, and then by proxy your organization.
So growth-oriented individuals who understand that their development is going to precede the organization's development and growth. Is that another way?
Yeah, and I would actually just say them, their team, the organization, right? Probably both.
Flows through. Thank you. 6.5 minutes left, sir. Tell us about the problem you solved for these folks.
Yeah, I think understanding how they can build their capacity. I built a framework around looking at spiritual, intellectual, physical, and emotional capacity, and sort of understanding how to use that framework for where people may be out of alignment and how they can kind of achieve at a higher level than they are today. So I think by going through that, people get a good sense of, oh, I don't really have a sense of my direction, or I've let my physical capacity diminish, and start to see, what that delta is.
So, and what do you mean by the word delta? Like a crossover?
Delta, like the difference. What's the gap between, where they could be and where they are today?
Thank you for that. So give us the 4 again, please. The physical, emotional, spiritual.
Yeah, I think they work better in this order because it's like a stack: spiritual, intellectual, physical, and emotional. So sort of what the why, the what, and then your physical nature, and then your emotional is a lot of your relationships.
I really like this because to me, this is often overlooked, isn't it? We kind of skip the person and go to tactics.
Yeah.
But yet it makes a lot of sense. It's one of those things that when you hear it, it sounds like it's, as someone said, it's common sense, but not commonplace. Well, let's go to question 3. 5 minutes left. What would you say are the typical symptoms of people who really need to have a look at the delta between these 4?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of different areas, right? They could have let something go out of whack. Their physical capacity could just be, totally, pulling them down. I think for a lot of people, it starts with spiritual capacity, which is kind of what they want and their core values. And I think if a lot of people look hard at that, they will realize that they are spending a lot of time and energy on something that doesn't really matter to them, kind of climbing the wrong mountain. So that's why I say they go in order, because you start to figure out, again, what it is that you want in your values, kind of the discipline and execution to pursue that, the physical and mental you need, and then the relationships that you need. So you can be out of whack on a bunch of those things. But again, if you're off on spiritual, you are often climbing the wrong path or mountain. And that's, you typically want to get off that before you get too far.
Right. And I like the way you amplified what you meant by spiritual. So for example, core values, someone believes in work-life balance, but they're working 7 days a week and the kids no longer recognize them, they're going to be out of whack. And I imagine that would lead to a lot of frustration, a sense of a lack of fulfillment, unhappiness.
Yeah, you're working too hard for this, vacation home for your family, and your kids and partner aren't speaking to you, right? So what good is the house at the end of the day if you've lost the relationships? Yeah.
Right. What does it profit a person to gain the whole world but lose their soul, sort of thing? So
yeah.
So this is good stuff, folks. Please listen up and examine yourself carefully to see if there is a big gap there. What would you say are some of the common mistakes that people make when they're trying to increase capacity? What do you see people doing that you think, gee, that's just not going to work?
Yeah, I
3
think
minutes left.
one of the biggest things is their goals are not in alignment with their values. So when you achieve the goal, it's not actually something that makes you feel good or sort of serves your purpose. So I see that as a very common misalignment. I think goals should fulfill a purpose, and then it's worth all the work to get there because it sort of supports what you're looking for at your core.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's hard to shut out all the noise about what people tell us, or the advertisers or marketers, evil people like me tell us that we should want, right? We're very
Yeah,
susceptible to suggestibility.
family, parents, society, all you want to do is be sitting in a cabin writing books, and you're busy doing something else that doesn't actually get you in that direction.
Doesn't feel right. Thank you for that. Let's flip it. We've got 2 minutes left. One common, a valuable free action, kind of like a top tip, something that someone could actually do that might take them a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple things. I think one of them is actually start spending time on figuring out your core values. I have a course on that, but set aside some time and start writing, thinking, reading about it, and seeing whether you can put those on pen to paper. Because to me, that's like turning on the lights if you're driving in a tunnel. That's my analogy.
Right, and take a step back from the busyness and just have a look and focus and examine what really is important to you. Well, let's help people with that. We've got 90 seconds left, 2 questions to go. A valuable free resource. Where can people go, a URL where people go to find out more about your work or get help with this?
Yeah, they could go to robertglazer, glazer.com. And under the resources tab, I have something called the Whole Life Dashboard that can be really helpful in terms of kind of laying out a schedule and a plan. And there's a quiz too that may tell you which capacity you need the most work in.
I'm going to go get it because it's time for me to recalibrate. So, folks, it's Robert Glazer with a Z or Z if you're down under here, er.com. Last question, Robert. What's the one question I should have asked you but didn't? 1 minute left.
Yeah, I'd say sort of for an organization, what's the biggest value in this? And the answer to that would be like a lot of organizations are living below their capacity. Similar, their leaders aren't doing what they could do, right? So they don't need new stuff. They just need the people on their team to sort of live up to their potential. And I think that has this incredible holistic effect inside and outside of work, right? You're not looking for a better person just to do their job better. Like, how can you make them better at some core things that will help them both inside and outside work? For example, health, sleep. Like, again, if you're exhausted, it's going to impact your life inside of work, outside of work. Prioritization, inside of work, outside of work. So I think that's a commonly overlooked.
Perfect. This is gold. Robert Glazer, thank you so much for your time and insights. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out our Marketing the Invisible podcast. If you like what we're doing here, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. It's very much appreciated. And if you want to generate 5 fresh leads in just 5 hours, then check out www.5hourchallenge.com.